Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CNC with Dave show. This is our ninth episode, I think, and we're going to kind of continue on a continuation from last week, talking about some programming with VCarve Pro and maybe throw in some Mach 3 stuff and stuff like that. So before we get started, I'll go through and let all my distinguished panel introduce themselves, and if they've got any kind of announcements or anything they want to talk about, go ahead and talk about that. And Juan, you are always on the far left over there, buddy. Go ahead and start us off.
All right. Hello, my name is Juan Lopez. I have a YouTube channel, and it's G Code 1 Design. Also, same for Instagram and Facebook. Thank you.
All right, very good, Juan. Next, we have my buddy Mark Lindsay.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Mark Lindsay, and you can find me mainly in the YouTube comments. I do have a YouTube channel under my name, Mark Lindsay, and I'm most active on Facebook in various woodworking, guitar, and, of course, CNC groups. So hit me up. See you around. I will also be in the chat section tonight down here monitoring questions and throwing them into the panel and hopefully keeping it on topic tonight, guys.
Yeah, okay. Appreciate you helping out there, Mark. Okay, next we have Melinda Davies.
Hey guys, my name's Melinda Davies. I'm here in Georgia, and right now all I am is on Facebook under Melinda Davies.
Okay, thanks, Melinda. Thanks for being here tonight. And next we have Michael Mertzke.
How's it going? Mike Mertzke here, Mertzke Custom Woodworking. You can find the links to all my social media on my website, most active on Facebook and Instagram. And just a quick announcement I got, we just started a GoFundMe campaign for the Falcon Children's Home. It's a nonprofit foster care and orphanage home that also has a K-12 school, and we're trying to put together a shop for them. Here soon they will have something very large in Safety Orange, but the fundraiser we're trying to do is to add to that, to not only have a CNC machine, but then also a laser engraver, and then a 3D printer, just so you know, can kind of have the trifecta of modern manufacturing there that we can show the kids. We'll also be putting a traditional wood shop in there also. Right now it's kind of at the ground level, and I'll send you a link, Dave, so you can throw that in the show notes if anyone wants to go over and check it out.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much, Mike. Please do send me a link, and I'll throw it in the description there where people can hit that up and give what you can, folks. It's a really good cause, and it's something I know it's near and dear to Mike's heart and also mine too. So thanks for talking about that, Mike. Okay, next we've got Richard Moeller. Richard, tell us what's going on.
Hi guys, Rich Moeller here. You can find me on Facebook at Shade Tree CNC and a YouTube channel under the same name.
Okay, thanks very much, Richard. And now on the right here, looks like we got a pair of Russes here. We're going to start with Russ Meadows.
Hey, I'm the better looking Russ. Start with me.
In his dreams. Yeah, you can find me, Russ Meadows. I'm Russ Meadows. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a Facebook page, Russ Janelle's Wood Shop. You can find me there too.
Okay, thanks for being on here tonight, Russ. And finally, Russell Clarity.
How you doing?
Doing well. How are you doing, buddy?
Seems like I just saw y'all in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Y'all following me around?
You came last.
Russ Clarity, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere under Simply Wooden Creations.
Okay, great. Thanks for being on here, Russ.
You're welcome.
Okay, as I mentioned last week, we were talking about VCarve Pro a little bit, some of the functions and different things on there. And I thought that maybe this week, because I don't really remember what all we covered, I know we touched on a few things. But Mark, have we got any questions, or maybe we can just kind of throw it out to the people watching if they've got any specific questions they want to ask, and I'm sure myself or somebody on our panel here can answer.
Not so far, Dave. We don't have any questions at all. So come on, folks, let's have the questions.
Okay. Well, I know last week we talked about DXF files, how to bring those in. Did we discuss, the join function in VCarve Pro? Did we talk about that at all? Anybody remember?
No, I don't think we talked about joining. I don't think we talked much about importing DXFs at all.
Okay. Well, one reason why I brought that up is I know I see a lot, I watch the people post their questions on the Facebook, different Facebook groups and stuff like that. And it seems like one of the common ones is somebody brand new starting out and they bring a DXF in, and it may be just a simple square or something, but the lines aren't joined, so it'll cut on one side of one line, and when it gets around to the other side, it'll cut on the inside and stuff like that. So that's what the join function is for. So I didn't know if we'd covered that before or not. I could probably maybe do a screen share here if anybody wants to see that. Oh, I guess I got to get it open first, don't I? I'm just going to open up something here, and then I can show. Y'all let me know when you can see this. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. This is kind of what I'm talking about. If I can just zoom in here. When something's not joined, like if I click on this line, you can see how the whole outside perimeter is highlighted. And if you bring something in here and it's not joined, you'll only get like whichever line you're touching on, or maybe just that arc or something like that. So if you're having problems running something and it's cutting on the inside in some places and the outside in other places, more than likely that's what it is. It just hasn't been joined.
Yeah, if I may piggyback on that too, Dave. 99 times out of 100, when you import a DXF file into VCarve Pro, if you import just a rectangle, it's 4 separate lines. It's not a solid rectangle. So you will have to highlight all 4 of those and join them, as Dave was talking about. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes even circles will be composed of different segments, and you'll have to highlight that entire circle and join it, or convert it to arcs, and that gets a little bit more advanced. But just know that they're treated as separate lines, separate entities, and it's not one solid object.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Because I draw everything in SolidWorks, and that's I've trained myself. That's the first thing I do when I bring the DXF into VCarve Pro, is to go through and join everything that I need to join, because it just won't work if you don't. So.
Well, is there a command in there to, when he said you, like that circle is separate arcs, and you highlight the whole circle, or select it, and there's particular command, like say join, and it joins it at one time?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys keep talking, and I'm going to go back here and try to find a DXF that I can bring in.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, Russ. You'll import the DXF file into VCarve Pro, and you will highlight the entire circle, draw a box around it.
Okay.
And then there is a join command, and it'll tell you how many segments it's in and how many joined vectors you'll have after the join. And you just click that button, and boom, it's done.
Now you can also right-click and then just search for open vectors, and it'll tell you throughout the whole drawing what's open and what's not.
That's true, and it comes in real handy if something is bugging you and you can't figure out why something isn't working. Because it's just the case with some DXF files. I mean, you might have what appears to be a circle, but it's actually a spiral that goes in behind itself, and you don't know that. But if you just right-click that, select all open vectors, a lot of times you'll find lines and segments that you never even knew were there, that you can delete, get rid of.
That was the next question. You'll see what you don't need.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Cool. That'd be the best. I'm
gonna screen share real quick here again, guys, because I've found a DXF that I had on here that this is what I'm talking about. If you go to select that line, just that one line, and then you can see all these different little lines and arcs and everything. And in this case, well, that one's okay. But in this case, you know, it's where I could just click this join thing and just box the whole thing. And then once I hit join, now when I touch any place on that part, the whole thing lights up. So, but that's what it needs to be in order to put the proper tool path on there. Otherwise, you're going to have some big problems. And one other thing I might mention, I just happened to think about it since I brought this part up, is if you're going to cut with a 1/4 inch end mill, this right here needs to be, it doesn't have to be much, it only has to be a hair, but it needs to be slightly bigger than a 1/4, or you're going to have some problems there too. And I think I've got this at, all right, come on, you're awful slow here. Well, I didn't quite catch it. I'm not catching it right, but I know I've got that set at about 281 or something like that. But if you keep that the same, you run into problems. And Juan, I don't know if you've run into something like this or not, but if you have it exactly the same width as your tool, it thinks that's already cut, which really it kind of is. But then it doesn't want to cut back over it a second time. But if you fool it and make it just slightly bigger than your tool, it'll go okay when it's doing this side, and then when it's coming around and doing this side, it'll just kind of cut it again.
That's correct.
I love it when I'm correct. Okay, I'm going to try to get back here to you guys. Okay. All right, so we've covered joining. What else we got, Mark? Anything?
Well, I do have a question here from Andrew. He says he hasn't built his Sidewinder yet. Canadian dollars he has here, and I don't know why. Does it make sense to try out the trial version of VCarve Pro, or is this not sensible yet since I can't carve anything?
Well, if you've got your machine built, you can still run a few things with the sample version.
Yeah, he doesn't have his machine built yet. He just has the plans.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, still, I don't think it ever hurts to get that demo version as early as you can. That way you can start learning it. Same goes for Mach 3. You know,
I would agree.
If you're not ready for it yet, go ahead and get it because it's the downloads are free. Get them and start playing around with them. That way, by the time you get your machine up and running, you maybe got a little handle on the software.
I would second that. You cannot start learning this software too early. There's just no such thing. So it's free.
Yeah, because basically what you do is when you buy the software, if you've already downloaded the demo version, really all they do is send you a license key. I don't really think there's a whole lot more to download. It just kind of unlocks everything, I think, or at least that's the case with Mach 3, I'm pretty sure. Anything else over there, Mark?
Not yet. No. Come on, y'all. We need some questions.
Okay. Well, since we're going to just kill some time here, I guess I will. I think, did we talk about toolpaths and nesting and anything like that last week? I think we maybe touched. No.
We did do a little bit with
What
nesting.
the hell did we talk about last week?
We did do a little bit with nesting, but not much.
Okay. Well, I know one thing. Let me just bring this up, and I'm going to do a screen share again. I hate to hog the screen here, but I want to touch on a few things. Let's see, which one is it? This one, I think. Okay, now this is a nest I was running today. Let me. Oh, now I got to go back and do the screen share. That button doesn't want to work all the time. Okay, y'all tell me when you can see it. Can y'all see that?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, now we got it.
You got it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, everybody can see it? Okay, this is a nest that I've been running, and I didn't use the nesting function. I just kind of figured out what my blank size needed to be, how many parts, how many of each part I needed, and just kind of played around with it and tried to figure out how to put them on there. And this isn't necessarily the correct way to do anything. Anytime I show you folks stuff, I'm just showing you how I do it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way or the wrong way. It's just the way I do things. And anytime I'm running a big blank like this is, you can see, maybe you can see up there it says 32 by 48 part nest. So this is, a pretty big piece of material. And I have found that the way I used to do it is I used to just go through and I would, you see over here, I've got a lot of tool paths. There's a bunch of tool paths. But I could have that really a lot fewer tool paths because I could go through here and every place there's a pocket that's, however deep it is, 3/8 deep or whatever, I could go ahead and like here, well, I think these are through holes here. But I could do all these pockets in one tool path and do another depth pocket and other tool paths and all that. But the reason I have so many tool paths is I found that when I do a big blank like this, if for some reason, the power flickers for just a second or whatever and my machine gets off, if you're just doing holes all over that blank, you may not even realize anything is off until you've run that whole nest. And trust me, that's not the time to find out something's wrong. So the way I've done this nest, and if you look over here, you can see part 1, I've got a pocket and a profile. I've got part 2, a drill, pocket, and a profile. So if I run this through the simulation, and I hate when y'all are quiet, I'm assuming y'all can still see what's going on here.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Somebody say something. So.
We're all muted.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that, but I need somebody to, because I can't see anything. I can't see y'all. So.
No, you can see it.
If you're nodding your head or something. So I'm just going to reset the preview, and I'll just hit preview all toolpaths, and it's not going to run real fast, so you can kind of get an idea. So you can see how I've got mine set up where it's going to do all the different toolpaths it needs to do for that part, then it's going to finish that part and then move on to another part. And again, this, like I said, this isn't necessarily the right way or the wrong way to do it. It's just the way I like to do it, because that way if the power should flicker or whatever and something gets off, I can know it before I burn that whole big piece of material.
Not only that, you can start wherever you want. Or
Yeah, and exactly. And if you look at my toolpath list over there, and something people may not realize, I don't know, I know you probably do, Juan, but you can double click on that toolpath and you can name it whatever you want. You can
Yep.
change the name, and so when I run my G code, and I'll show that here in a minute once this thing gets done. It makes it nice because if I want to go find a certain spot in a part, looking at the G code, I can find it real easy. I can do a search for the part number. I've actually got a printout of this nest, and I've got them all, just took my pen and numbered them, so I can look at that thing and know exactly which part I'm looking at.
Okay, so got a little question here. So when you're talking about nesting, are you talking about the overall project is nested, or you've nested each individual part so that it will cut it out?
Nesting just means putting a group of parts together in one blank.
Okay.
I noticed your start points. Did you deliberately put them there, or was that an automatic on VCarve?
It's all automatic.
Okay.
Or I guess that's the way I had it set up. I didn't set them, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, there's a check mark there in your toolpath, and it remembers your last setting. So if you checked use vector start points at any time, that's how it's going to open the next time you use it.
Okay. Yeah.
I usually move mine around. That's why I'm saying, because they look like those were real good spots to start and stop at, or to actually start your.
Oh, okay. Well, if it was just luck, because I didn't really plan any of that. I mean, I know you can move all that stuff, but I usually don't bother. I usually just let it start wherever it wants to.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it makes sense if you have certain projects. You'll want your bit to start at one corner and work its way in one direction, and you can kind of line up all your start points on each one of the vectors to kind of go in sequence. Other times you might want it to just finish up with this part over in this corner, pick up and move over to the next closest part. It doesn't come back down to the very foot and start over again. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah. And I guess I'll zoom in here so y'all can see that I've got tabs here holding all these parts in. And one thing I'll mention about tabs is, I've always done this with sheet metal too. A lot of times, if you've got a bunch of little parts, it's good to have the lead-in tab. If you just got one tab on it and you're using a lead-in tab, it's good to put it in the same place every time, because that way you can take those parts, even whether it's metal or in this case wood, and you can take a stack of them and then put them on a sander and sand that off real easy instead of having to. And one thing I also do too, if you'll notice, I do pick the location for these tabs, and I always try to avoid trying to put one like, well, if I can get the stupid thing over here, here we go. Try to avoid putting it on a curved surface or something like that, because that's a whole lot harder to sand off, or at least I think it is.
Right, exactly. And I do the same thing. When I was using tabs, I would put them right in the middle of a nice straight piece. And another little quick tip is you'll have on your tabs tab over in your toolpath, you have a check block for make 3D tabs. And what that does is it turns the tab, instead of the bit running up to where the tab's going to be stopping, lifting up, moving over, and then plunging back down, the bit actually ramps its way up and then ramps its way back down, so it never stops moving in that axis. It just speeds it up a little bit. It doesn't really matter if you're cutting out one part, but if you're cutting out 15 or 16, like on this nest right here, that might be 10 minutes just in creating ramps alone, or excuse me, tabs alone.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Mark, because as I ran this today, I realized that I didn't have that check, so it was stopping pretty much and going up. So I probably can tweak this a little bit and save some time by changing that. Have we got any other questions over there in the chat, Mark?
Yes, sir, we do, and this will dovetail kind of into what you're talking about. Nathan Longfellow wants to know, is there a way to merge toolpaths?
What what exactly does he mean by merged?
Well, I would guess, let's see, you've got all of your, for instance, all of your profiles on that nest. Do you have all of your profiles merged into one toolpath so that it cuts out all that all at once when it creates your G code?
Well, okay. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe he'll throw something out there to let us know for sure what he's talking about. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell some stuff, and maybe if that's not what he means, then he can get with us. But this, all you see, all these different tool paths here, all of these things here, like right here, and I think I mentioned this last week. This right here, you see these little marks. I'm using a 1/4 inch down spiral for this whole nest. Every tool path over here is using that. Now, what these are just to mark suggested pilot hole locations for for drilling your pilot hole for your wood screw and stuff like that. Obviously, when you drill your pilot hole, you're not going to be drilling a 1/4 inch, but this is just to mark the location. So all these little things I'm pointing with at the mouse here, I'm just telling to go down about a 1/16 just to mark the whole location. That's all that's for. Everything else, and you can see there are some fairly large holes here, I guess, but everything is done with a 1/4 inch end mill, and I did it on purpose just so I didn't have to stop and change tools and reset to 0 and all that. For something like this, you get a long run like this, you can hit the button and watch it a second or two and then go do something else, and that's what I do. I was working on something totally different while this was running. I'd stop every once in a while and go over there and kind of turn on the shop vac and kind of clean up the mess as I went, because I wasn't running any kind of dust shoe or anything with this. I was just letting the chips fly where they may. But I'm not sure, Mark, has he come back with anything? Is that kind of what he was talking about, or is he talking about merging tool paths with two different tools?
No, he says he thinks he's got it now after you talked about searching the G code for the two paths. And he has said he's always saved them separately, each tool path separately, even if it uses the same bit. But he wanted to know if you could merge them so that they all end up on the same piece of G code.
Yeah, and I can do it right here. Really, the way you do it is when you go to save this, since these are all the same tool, all I got to do is check that, and you can see it highlights all the tool paths. And if I run this back and forth, you can see that every single one of them has a check mark by it. So now when I select this, it's going to list them here, and here you can see they're all right there because they're all using that same tool. So it'll all just be one big program. Now, let's say, for example, I didn't want to cut these two parts here, and I'm picking those two parts because I just happen to know that they're 14 and 15. I can turn these off, 14 and 15. So you see now the tool path isn't highlighted there. So now if I save that program, it's going to run all the parts except those two. So you can, you put all your tool paths over here, but really when you go to save your G code, it's pretty much whatever you have checked is what it's going to put in the thing. And you can also put tool paths together that don't necessarily have, like say I had here I've got a 1/4 inch end mill. Let's say I had a 90-degree V-bit or something. I could put that in there too. It's just that I would have to make sure I had a stop in the program somewhere where I'd have to change it out. And to me, it's easier if I've got different tools. I always keep them as different, save them as different files.
I do the same.
Yeah, I just think it's easier. But again, on this case, everything here is just can be cut with a 1/4 inch end mill. Probably the worst thing is, if I can get this stupid thing to go here. Here I've got a fairly large hole, and I could have used a pocket to do that, but using a 1/4 inch end mill, when you start, trying to pocket something that big, it takes a lot longer, so it's easier and faster to do it here, and then I just put a couple of tabs in there to hold it.
Okay,
And I'm not putting much of a tab. I think the tabs I were using were like 1/8 by 1/8 or something.
Quick question that butterflies in here, or dovetails in rather, on this nest. Let's see where he goes. Jeff Morgan wants to know about how long does it take for that nest to cut out.
Okay, I cut one today, and I used the GarageWorks CNC to cut it, and I used the Porter Cable 690, which is a 1 3/4 horsepower, and I cut it at 80 inches a minute, and I think the depth of cut, I believe I had at 80 thousandths too. And again, I like to run my stuff fairly light, just so I don't have to worry about it. I can hit the button and go do something else and feel confident that I'm not going to bog anything down or break a bit or anything like that. And I think it took. I didn't really get a good accurate time because I did stop it a couple of times to check some stuff and vacuum. But I think it's probably going to take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Now, I'm hoping that when I get my other table finished and I use that Porter Cable 7518, which is like 3 1/4 horse, I should be able to cut that cycle time down considerably because I'll be able to go probably faster as well as a good bit deeper when I run that.
Okay. I got a question for you, Dave.
Okay, go ahead, Russ.
Okay. Now, when you're talking about setting up a program or setting it up to cut everything, and then you need to change the tool, can you set it up, so to speak, so that it will go through and cut everything? Let's say I have 3 tools, A, B, and C. Can you set it up so that it will cut everything that tool number A needs to cut, and then come back and then switch to tool B, then it goes back and cuts everything that tool B needs to cut, and then comes back and you change to tool C, and then it comes back and cuts everything that tool C needs to cut? Is that the way you could do it on a CNC?
Yeah, pretty much in most cases you could do that. It would kind of depend on the tools and what the part is, because some tools, some things need to be done before other things.
I kind of get what you're saying, but my point is you could actually program it to do that, where in other words, you didn't have to flip-flop and back. It just come back and you change the tool only one time.
Oh yeah. Anytime I run something where I have tool changes, I still try to make it where I'm only changing it one time.
Okay.
I don't want to, I don't want to use a 1/4 inch end mill and then go back and use a couple other tools and then have to come back with that 1/4 inch end mill or something.
Right.
I like to keep it where try to be as efficient as possible on stuff like that.
Right. I get what you're saying, because it could be possible that you have to do several flip-flops in between tools depending on what you're trying to cut out.
Right. I'm gonna try. I don't know. Y'all still seeing the VCarve Pro thing?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'm gonna try to go open up. If I can find it here. Bear with me a second, folks.
Okay. I'll throw this question out just to everybody on the panel also that uses VCarve Pro. How closely does the VCarve Pro estimates in cutting time, how closely does that match reality for you? It's been my experience that the time estimates in VCarve Pro are right around double what they actually end up cutting at. How about y'all?
I don't even pay attention to that.
Okay, am I back now?
Yeah,
Yep.
we got you.
Okay, I'm gonna go back and screen share again and show the actual G code here in just a second. I really think it depends on how you have your tool library set up, because when you set up a tool, you set your defaults for what you want it to cut, what feed rate you want it to cut at, what plunge rate you want it to cut at, and all that. And then of course that estimate thing has the rapids too. So it really depends on how accurate you set that up, how close it will be on your time. I've actually had them come out fairly close, but most of the time mine are not close at all. It usually runs a lot faster than the estimate, and the reason for that is because I like to keep my feed rate and plunge rate a little bit on the slow side, and then since you can actually override it and bump it up with Mach 3 on the fly, that's usually what I do.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
So
yeah, Mach 3
usually,
also has it.
Yeah. So usually, like for example, on a lot of my tools, I'll keep the feed rate by default at 50 inches a minute. But I very rarely cut something at 50 inches a minute. I'm usually 80 inches a minute or faster. So the estimate, and you can also, Richard, you probably can help me answer this question. I'm pretty sure there's a way you can simulate it with Mach 3 as well.
It actually has it on the main screen.
Yeah, and it goes through the code, and I don't know exactly how it works, and I don't know how accurate that is either, but it goes through and gives you a...
When you first run Mach 3 code, it basically, when it goes to fill the screen, it actually does an error check of your entire code. So in that run, it estimates the time that it's going to take.
Yeah.
Right. And in your experiences, do you think that's pretty accurate, or?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Okay. I guess again, it depends because it's looking at the feed rates that you have in the code. So if you're going to bump it up, you're kind of throwing it out the window there, I guess. But
that changes on the fly.
Okay. All right. Let me go back here and we'll screen share one more time, unless somebody else has got something, and I'll show you I just got this opened up in Notepad, and of course this right here is huge because I've got all those tool paths. But this is kind of what I was talking about is, see right there, part 1 profile. I can just go anywhere down here, and it doesn't take me long, or I could do the search or something if I can find one. But you can see this program is huge. But see, here's part 14. So, it makes it, by taking the time to label those tool paths and splitting it all up like this, it makes it easy to go in and fix something if you need to. And again, you can look right here. Here you can see my feed rate is 50. My plunge rate right here is 20. But I never run that. I always just kind of put that in there just to start, and let it run just a second, and then I go, okay, it's cutting okay, and then I start bumping it up. And I think I bumped this up. I know it was at 80 inches a minute cutting it, I think, which really probably could have went a little faster than that. But like I said, I like to keep it where, because I'm not watching the machine. I'm in the same garage or shop or whatever, but I'm constantly listening to the sound of that router, listening for chatter or anything that sounds out of the normal. And you'd be amazed that when you do this a while, you can tell that something's going wrong by hearing it way before you ever see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, anybody got any questions about all this gobbledygook over here?
Just one more thing to throw in. For instance, you have that very long G code right there, and you've got it broke up into your various parts. You can, if you should happen to get into a situation where you need to, like you had it set there where you were going from one part to another, you can pause the program right there, shut off your router, go in the house, do what you have to do, come back, and start Mach 3 again from that point. Just don't turn off your control box, but you can actually pause Mach 3, go do what you got to do, come back and pick up where you left off. And I know that because I watched G-Code 1. Mr. Juan posted a video about that.
Now there lies the value of having homing switches, because you could actually shut it down completely, rehome your machine, and then your tool coordinate, your G54, will take you right back to where you started from when you turned the machine off.
You can do them without them.
Yeah. Now, this is a debate I've had with folks on YouTube.
Done it plenty of times.
I did a video showing that one time, and they go, "Oh, you can't do that. It's going to move." And I'm like, "There's nothing to make it move. There's nothing turning the damn lead screw, so it can't move." But I do that a lot of times. Like for example, let's say I was out there tonight and I was running that long program, and I got about halfway done, and I was just tired and ready to quit. You know, I could stop it. You know, I always just wait till it's raising up, stop it, cut the router off, let it finish spinning down, then hit go to zero, let it go back to zero. You know, cut everything off, go in, you know, and come back tomorrow, the next day, you know, whenever, fire it up and take right off where I left off. You know, assuming I'm smart enough to write down my number or know where I'm at in the code to do that. But yeah, not all machines you can do that. But with the ones I designed with those lead screws, once you cut that power off, that sucker ain't moving nowhere. I mean, you can turn it by hand if you want, and then you've screwed it up, but it's not going anywhere.
I remember having that discussion in one of your videos, and the fella saying, "Well, that doesn't work," and I'm like, "Well, what video did you just watch?"
Yeah, I mean, I just got through showing him, and he sat there telling me it wouldn't work, and I'm like, whatever. You know, it'll work on mine.
I got a question for you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
I got one as well.
When you're doing this, I mean, you're talking about time rate, feed rate, and all this other kind of stuff, how deep you're going to do it. But if you're doing it as a hobbyist, so to speak, where you're not trying to do production, where I'm gonna have this thing cut out, something for me, and I'm not gonna worry about if it takes it all day. Well, so be it. It takes all day or whatever. So wouldn't, as a hobbyist or something like that, from me looking at it, wouldn't it be better to go a little bit slower or a little bit not so deep or whatever to cut something out, just to make sure it's better and more accurate than to have to worry about the feed rate and buzzing through it and then breaking something?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the biggest problem, and I'm just speculating here because I don't know, but I see folks on the Facebook groups and all this, and they're always talking about these problems they got us doing this or doing that, and then somebody will say, well, what's your feed rate, what's your depth of pass, and all this stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, why not just start out easy? You know, go shallow, go fast. And the cycle time is going to be the same or less than, you know, trying to go slower but really hogging it out. And then you got more, you know, you got more of a chance of your machine losing steps and stuff like that. I mean, I just think that's a problem that a lot of new people have. They don't understand that these machines have limits, you know, because we're talking lightweight benchtop machines, and they've got limits. So if you don't try to, you know, wear them out, you know, right off the bat, they'll run great. You just have to know what your machine's capable of and stay within those limits.
Well, I hate to bring this up, but I think that we talked about the same thing about the VCarve. And I know that's a foul word in a lot of people's minds, but in the VCarve is that machine was not designed to do super fast, super hard. It was a hobbyist machine designed to do slow rates of feed and not a lot of depth at one time. And I think the biggest problem with the VCarve, it might have been a pretty good machine to a lot of hobbyists, but they didn't understand that, and they thought they see these industrial machines go down and bore out a half or 3/4 of an inch at one time and spin around and cut a part out in 2 minutes, and they're thinking that a little VCarve should do the same thing.
Right, and you get that a lot with like my machine, the Sidewinder back here. It's a plywood machine. It's got limits. It's not going to compete with a big Laguna or a big Tormach. Right. These guys can chew through 3/4 inch plywood with a compression bit that cuts a smooth top and a smooth bottom and just go through a sheet of plywood in 2-3 minutes. I mean, you've got people cutting aluminum at 200 and 300 inches per minute. That ain't going to happen on this machine. It's just not going to happen. And
one of the things you got to take into consideration is the material you're cutting. If you're doing acrylic and that kind of stuff, you have to go a much faster feed rate because you want to keep the tool temperature down. So you want a larger chip load, but to keep from melting the material.
Well, in that aspect, I can understand that. But my point is I think the biggest problem that I see from an outsider, I don't even have a CNC, and I want one, but I'm looking from an outsider looking in, and some of the problems that I see is I think people go way too fast, way too deep, too quick. It needs to be low and slow. It's just.
And that comes with experience, Russ. I mean, it would be easy for me to get hold of a scroll saw, never really having much experience on it, and try to rip 3/4 inch plywood. It's the wrong tool for the job, and I'm probably gonna, do nothing but break blades and cuss that scroll saw. So yeah, it takes a while to get experience. It takes a while to, as Dave said, develop that ear for what the machine's doing. If you used routers for any length of time, you know the sound of a router in distress. You know the sound of chatter when it's happening. If you hear that, e-stop, find out what's going on. Are you running it too fast? Are you running it too deep? Did something happen and your Z is plunging down instead of lifting up? It's happened. It's kind of getting experience and developing that ear for what's going on. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people do try to cut too deep, too fast, too soon. I'm guilty of that. I mean, when I cut those jewelry boxes for my granddaughters for Christmas, one lid I cut 6 times because I couldn't get a good finish. And I was just trying to take out too much material too fast. When I backed down my feed rates, it smoothed right out and cleaned right up.
Hands down, it depends on the material.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
I don't disagree with what you're saying because I'm on the outsider looking in. I know that different materials are going to have different feed rates. That's an acceptable thing. I understand that. But my point is as a general rule, from everything I'm listening, and I think the biggest problem that a lot of people have with those X-Cars were, Dave and I talked about this several times, was the fact that people were pushing those machines beyond their limits.
You can have a moderate starting point where you're not going too fast and you're not going too slow. But if you do go too slow, like let's say on plastic, you could just burn up the plastic and actually fill your end mill with plastic, and it'll break.
That's a very good point, Juan. There is such a thing as going too slow.
Yeah,
as
but
well
you
as going too fast.
You have that same thing on a scroll saw. I have cut a plastic with my scroll saw, and you have that same exact thing. You've got to cut through it quick, and the feed rate being on my scroll saw to be cut through the plastic. Otherwise, the scroll saw will actually, the little tiny blade will heat up that plastic and melt behind you.
Now, the
Well,
differences on machines is just the design. You got to keep in mind that XCarve uses belts instead of the lead screws. And that in itself is a big difference of how your feeds and speeds are, or not even speeds, I'm talking different machines, but your feeds are going to be handled because you're talking a V8 compared to a go-kart or something, not to a go-kart.
You're absolutely right. You're not going to haul freight with a go-kart. And that's just all there is to it.
And that's,
We don't want to use the terminology of Volkswagen versus a Cadillac now, do we?
there
Juan?
you go. Hey, that's
It's not a Volkswagen versus a Cadillac. It's a Volkswagen versus a Mercedes-Benz.
there you go. Yep.
But no, I understand what you're
Trying
saying.
to make a point.
Yeah.
Got a comment here from KTWSC. He says, I'm an old machinist. Do you want it fast or do you want it right?
There you go.
Yep.
Right. Stated very well.
Stated very well.
It's funny because people will email me and they'll say, well, I'm going to cut this and I'm going to use this kind of a bit. How fast should I go? And you never know what to tell them because, first of all, I may not know what kind of machine they're going to run it on. There's just so many factors. Is it a brand new bit? Is it nice and sharp? Or is it one you've had in the drawer for, a year and a half or something? But I usually just tell them to kind of start out shallow, pick a feed rate, and then you can, especially that's one of the things I love about Mach 3 is you can either speed it up on the fly or slow it down on the fly. So I usually just say, just slowly bump it up a little at a time until you start to hear that chatter, and then you back down, 10% or whatever, and you should be right there.
Well, that's a good question. Going back to what y'all were talking before, when you said you can pause something in the middle of the program and then leave, go in the house, and then come back and pick it back up. How do you pause it? Do you know, like are you setting it up in the software to stop at a certain point and then do it, or are you pausing it on the fly? How do you do that with that?
You can do both.
You can do both.
I know you can do it by setting a command in there in the program to stop at a certain point. But is there?
There's end numbers. There's end numbers on your program, right. And on Mach 3
has a hold button.
On Mach 3, you can start and stop wherever the end number is.
Okay.
I use an Xbox 360 controller to run my CNC. That red button right there stops it. It just stops it right there, and then I can go into Mach 3 and say, run from here. It'll ask me, are you sure? Yes, run from here, and it goes.
Okay. I'm pulling up Mach 3 now so you can see what I'm talking about, Russ.
Yeah, the yellow button is a hold button. You can stop that. It's kind of like a pause.
Right.
Okay.
Or use your spacebar if you don't have one of those controllers.
True.
Okay.
I'm going to do a video on this controller one of these days.
Hey, I have plenty of Xbox. I have an Xbox sitting over here. I
got one right there.
Yeah.
Xbox 360 controller.
I have a 360 controller and don't even use it.
You're all set.
Okay, Russ, just for you, I'm going to screen share. If I can get this to work. Here we go.
Now you got to get a CNC to use with that controller.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, this button right here is what he's talking about, Russ. This is kind of like a pause button. If I've already zeroed this out and everything, and you can see I'm doing from the center of the blank here. But if I hit this, see at any point I can hit this. What I always try to do is, here I'm having to watch the Z to make sure it's yeah, this thing runs slow on this thing.
It's moving over to the part to start cutting.
Yeah, it's slowly going down to the Z at 200 thousandths there. There we go. But anyway, as you're running, like right now it's negative, so I'll wait until and I can see my Z right here. I'm pointing like you can see my finger. Yeah. Right here. There's a brain fart moment right there, folks. Yeah, right where my arrow is. You can see as that goes up. Well, of course, I don't ever look at this. I'm watching the actual machine. So whenever it raises up, I always try to stop it when it's, up. So you can, if you want to quit for the night or whatever, you can come right here, hit that, record this number right here, which is N980, and you can, in my case, now this is how I do it. Like I said, this won't work on everybody's machine, but I can
you're
write
on
that.
line 98, right next to the stop button. It tells you what line you're on.
Yeah, it's showing down here too. So in my case, the way I do it is I would turn the router off and let it spin down, and then I would hit this go to 0. Man, this thing is so slow on this laptop here. I guess it's because I got all that other stuff open. But anyway, it'll eventually get back to 0 there.
Oh, your X, Y, and Z, all of it?
Yeah, it'll be it'll be X and Y at 0, and it'll also bring the Z down where it's touching the top of the material right where I zeroed it out.
Okay.
Okay, so see now it's all at 0.
Yeah.
So if you can picture it, the router is turned off, but the bit is touching the top of the material.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I've done that, I can turn this off, I can shut the computer down, I can go on vacation for a week, it doesn't matter. And then I can come back, start this back up, and go to that line and just tell it to run from there.
Okay, that's it.
And I want to put a little height on there.
Yeah, and the key is making sure you zero as soon as you start your machine. Don't move it around.
Yeah.
Exactly. What did I do? I done messed up and didn't hit the right thing or whatever that was.
You started at line 0.
Yeah, you went back line 0, but you can type in that. You can type in the line you want. Scroll down. Click your screen and scroll down. Yep. Scroll down to a line to where you want it.
See, it's not letting. Something's wrong with the laptop here. Unlock something up. But anyway, that's why it doesn't want to do it. Keeps jumping back to the top.
Well, when Juan did this Mach 3 run through on when he was spotlighted, I think he might have went over some of that. I can go back.
There we go. Oh, it keeps jumping back to the top. Yeah, I don't know why. Of course, I guess it's because we're live. That's why it doesn't work. But
Well, of course.
But anyway, that's basically what you do is you scroll back down to that line, raise your Z up, turn the router on, hit cycle start, and it would take right off where you left off.
I have a video on that, Russ.
I think you might have touched on that when you did the spotlight a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I also have one on my channel.
Yeah, he does have one on his channel. That's where I learned that stuff.
All right, I'll take a look at that too.
Yeah, like I said, that doesn't work with every machine. It just depends on how the machine's set up. But the way I use lead screws and stuff, you can do it all the time, and it's not a problem.
I said, you haven't learned yet, Dave, that if it's going to mess up, it's going to do it live?
I know. It's that's true, apparently. I don't know why that thing is like it got hung up or something. I guess because I got so much stuff going on here.
Okay, and to dovetail in here, Jerry Bonifield had asked, can Dave explain how to start and stop a long cutting run? I've watched the video, but it never worked, so maybe he can explain it with his program. I think you just did, didn't you? Did that answer your question there, Jerry?
That's what we were just doing.
Okay.
And again, I don't want somebody to try that and they're not using, the machine like I'm talking about, because it may not work. If you're using an VCarve or something else that's where when you cut the power off, everything can move real free, and it may move. But the way I do my lead screws, they're so snug that when you cut it off, I mean, you can even leave the Z hanging, and it's not going to move. It's going to stay right in the same place because there's nothing to turn the lead screw. That's what's holding it.
That's right.
There's some tricks that you can do too. It's like you can go in and manually punch a little hole somewhere off in the margin of your material and just call that 0. And it gives you a starting point. Should everything go bizarre, you can come back and re-zero your machine on that one spot and be able to catch back up to where you were at.
Yeah, that's a good point, Richard. I wish I'd have showed that while I had that nest up there, or maybe it's still up here.
That's why I love that triple edge finder, because even if everything goes wrong, so long as that part is still mounted to the table, I can come back and reset all my zeros and pick up right where I left off.
Okay, can y'all see this again?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna zoom in here. You can see that I'm starting in the center of the material, and you notice that right where the center of the material is, it's in the skeleton part. It's not on a part. So what I could do is when I set my 0 or my reference, I guess, what I could do, what Richard was talking about, is I could take that just go page down a little bit and just put me just a little bit of a hole right there, and then come back up and go ahead and start running the program. Then if anything happened, I could go back to that hole and line it up and be able to not lose all those parts.
Yeah, you recover. The other thing is that if you drill 2 holes and drill 2 holes in your table before you set your material down, you can turn the part over and reference all your material to the second side.
Yep.
Yeah, let me get out of this screen share again. Where'd it go? Am I back?
Yep,
Yep,
you're back.
Okay. One thing I want to do, I want to go over this sometime. I don't know whether we'll do it on the show or maybe I'll just do videos on it or something. But I don't know if anybody's seen the video. I didn't do a build video, but I had built something and then I kind of did a video showing it. But I want to make another one, and it's something that a lot of y'all that have CNCs might enjoy making with me. But it's a Glastonbury chair. I don't know if you don't know what the heck that is, just Google Glastonbury chair, and it's an old chair that was built by a monk back in whatever, I don't know, long time ago.
Are you talking like a Viking chair or a bog chair? Or is it different?
I don't know. Hold on. Let me see if I can Google the thing, and I'll find a picture.
I don't want to get off on another tangent. I was just wondering if that was the same chair.
It shouldn't take me just a second to.
Okay.
Probably all our viewers are doing this while I'm.
Okay, I did have one question for Richard here while you're looking that up, Dave. The question for Richard is, what kind of bit do you use for surfacing your spoil board?
I use a 2.5-inch bit, but I don't use it to cut any. I don't cut my spoil board. I always throw a sacrificial piece up underneath my material because the top on my machine is a melamine top. So rather than to be cutting into it, I throw a 1/4-inch sacrificial piece underneath.
Okay, that was from Carl Larson. He said, what surfacing bit do you use? Okay.
Okay. Well, I can get you my surfacing bit. I showed you last week, but I can go grab it if you like. Because I use it for surfacing like tabletops and things that are too big to run through my planer.
Okay, I've got a picture pulled up here. Let me do the screen share again. I'll show this real quick. This is just off of Google Images.
Okay, no, that's different.
Let's see.
That is cool, actually.
Well, it's a really cool project to make because it's got, if you look at like right here, it has a bunch of Latin sayings on it. And it's like on the inside and the outside of the arm. So what Richard was talking about, trying to fixture it where you can reverse the image and flip it over and do the other side and still have everything lined up. That was a pretty challenging project. I've actually got one sitting in there in my dining room that I made just out of, I just went to Lowe's and bought some pine, 2x8s or whatever and glued some up and did that, and it came out pretty good. And I'm wanting to build another one, but that would probably be a good project to do and show people how you can flip things over. Actually, for these arms, because you see these arms are really weird shape, what I did for that is I took a piece of 1/2-inch MDF and just cut the pocket in it that shape so that would fit down in there snug. And then that way I could program stuff on this side, take it and flip it over, and I still had a reference on that fixture. And it turned out really nice. Like I said, I just made it out of pine a while back, but I'd like to do another one. So that would be a good project for CNC folks.
Well, there it looks like you had a couple through holes through the arms that you could have used those to flip it over too.
Yeah.
Okay, here's that bit that I was talking about that I use for surfacing my table or other things. It's basically 2.5-inch, but I have a 2-horsepower router too, so it's got a fairly good size shank on it. So.
And what brand is that, Richard?
eBay.
eBay. Yeah, he specifically asked, what brand?
eBay.
Oh, Joe and Fred's Tool Company.
$16.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I see we've got, wow, we're already over our time here, and we've still got 40-something viewers.
Okay, yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions on various topics, all dealing with VCarve Pro, if you want to take them.
Okay, well, let's,
We have...
as long as we got 45 people hanging around, and they might get mad if we leave without answering
Okay,
all the questions. But.
well, Fred Palumbo wants to know, he says, Dave, in the past you made a video on the Smooth Stepper. Do you still use it, and has it improved your machine's performance?
Do I still use it? No. Did it improve my performance? Absolutely. And it's not that I, am going to say don't use one of those. I think they're great, but I just found something I like better, and that's that UC100 CNC motion control. That's just much simpler to set up, and it works. And that's the thing. If you guys haven't learned something about me by now, it's that I'm all about simple. I want to go out there and turn it on, and I want it to work. I don't want to have to fiddle around with it and adjust anything. I want to get out there and get it going and get it cutting. And the CNC, I guess I'll have to maybe do another video or something to kind of show it up closer or something. But you go out there. I mean, it's out in the garage. It's got a it's got a parallel connection on one side, and then it's got a USB connection on the other side, and it came with about a 5 or 6 foot USB cable, and I just keep that all out there in the garage, and I just take the laptop out there, plug the USB up to the laptop, and of course as soon as I plug it in and turn the laptop on, the green light will come on, which means that it's getting power. And then as I start Mach 3, it'll ask me, it recognizes that, and it'll come up and say, well, which do you want to use? And it's got like UC100, UC200, because it loaded all the drivers on there. And I just tell it, check the box and say, I'm going to use the UC100. And as soon as I hit OK, I look down, and now it's got the green light and the blue light. And it works. I run it all day long today, and it never misses a beat. So, I'm not knocking the Smooth Stepper. I had an Ethernet Smooth Stepper. I just felt like it was kind of a pain in the butt because every time I would go out there, it seems like I had to reset some kind of setting. And maybe that was me, I don't know. If you had a dedicated computer where you weren't, I was doing my laptop and I'm bringing it in here and I'm using it for this right here and stuff like that. But if I just had a dedicated computer, I'm sure that Ethernet Smooth Stepper or the USB Smooth Stepper would be fine. They are a little more pricey. I think if I remember correctly, the Ethernet Smooth Stepper was about $180 or something, and this USB Smooth Stepper I think is around $150. But they do have a board, kind of like a breakout board, where you can put other things on them, whereas the UC100 doesn't. But the UC100 I got from Amazon. I think it was like $114, $115, something like that. So, yeah, here I get rambling. But yeah, no, I don't use the Ethernet Smooth Stepper anymore. But yeah, they're fine too.
Okay. Ted Krieger has a question on VCarve Pro. When setting up your material size in the datum section, why would you ever need to set an offset? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I usually don't, but I can see things where you would. Juan, you want to take that one? I know you know about offsets and stuff.
Well,
or
let's
have
say
you ever used that function
No.
of VCarve Pro?
no, but let's say that laser deal that we were talking about the other day was where Mike's laser was off to the side. If he knew exactly how far it was on the X and the Y, you could always just choose that offset on VCarve Pro, and it should match. Let's say you had 2 different projects, or not different projects, but you did one for the laser and one for the router. The one for the laser, you enter the offset, and it'll match the one for the router.
Okay, so basically, if you don't know if you need it or not, you probably don't.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a perfect example of how it would come in handy. And Ted, I don't think I've ever used that. Just haven't had a need to use it.
Okay. And Rick Nolan would like to know in VCarve Pro, how do you enter new tooling?
Okay,
New tooling in your database.
let me get back over there. Well, I close that out again. Bear with me a second, Rick.
One of the cool things too is that there's many different ways of doing things. It's not just, you could like that offset could be done on G coordinates, or it's a tool that's there, and if that's what you like to use, and that's what you can use.
Okay, I'm back. Oh, y'all see that again?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I can remember where they are. Tool database.
Yeah, I think it's under tool paths.
Yeah. Okay, I just happened to think, can y'all see that window or not?
Yeah.
You can see the tool database window?
No, I can't.
No.
Yeah. See, it's not going to let me. I'd have to, hold on here. Let me stop sharing and come back here again, and maybe it'll let me share. I wasn't thinking about that. I can open up.
Yeah, only one window.
Yeah, it doesn't show the
Can you try a screen capture and then show that as a still?
Yeah, I suppose
Well,
here.
You might have to do a video on that, Dave.
Yeah, well, Rick, if you're, yeah, I hate that it doesn't show that. It's really very simple. You just go to that tool database, and it's got imperial tools at the top, metric tools down near the bottom, and then there's different categories: end mills, ball nose, V-bits, form tools, engraving, specialists like a diamond drag, and then it all has drills in there as well. But you really just click on one of those categories, and you go down here and hit new. And I know you guys can't see this, but you go down here and hit new, and then it comes up and it says ask you for the tool type. So I can drop that list down, and I can say, okay, I'm going to do a V-bit, and then you just put in the information about that tool. It asks for the geometry, the diameter, the included angle, and then here's where you set your defaults on your cutting parameters: pass depth, final pass step over, clearance pass step over, feeds and speeds. You can set the default feed rate, and then you can also give it a tool number if you want to. So I apologize that this thing won't let me screen share all of that, but am I back there? Okay.
Okay, and one last question from Jim Sinicola, and this is a personal preference question, it looks like. If there's time when it comes to router bits, upcut or downcut? Yeah, that's not going to start a debate, is it?
I mean, tomato, tomato. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, I guess, what kind of finish you want on it. I use both. Sometimes I use just a regular old what I call a straight cutter. I use a bunch of different things. It just really depends on what I'm trying to do and what kind of finish I'm trying to get on something. But
yeah, I know from personal experience, if you're looking for a clean pocket, downcut is the way to go.
Yeah, downcut is what I use today running that nest that I showed earlier.
Yeah, for pockets, and I'd probably say most profiles. Also, it has to do with, as you say, the project that you're working on. If the face that you're milling is going to be hidden or on the inside of something or painted, then you can use an upcut bit. If the good exposed side is against the table, I would probably use an upcut, because you're going to want that to be the show side. But if the side you're milling is going to show, I would probably use a downcut, because let all the fuzzies and chip out happen on the back where it's not going to be seen. So, but when it comes to pockets, I use down cuts exclusively, if I can.
Okay. Jim, I hope we answered your question there. Buy one of each.
Yeah.
Or two of each,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
What else we got, Mark?
Harbor
Anything
Freight
else?
don't sell down cuts.
No,
what
they
was that,
don't.
Richard? I missed that. What was that, Richard?
Harbor Freight don't sell down cut bits. They only have up cut bits.
Okay.
But Lowe's does. The Bosch down cut spiral, solid carbide 1/4 inch end mill, or a 1/4 inch straight mortising bit. They're
How much?
$18.50.
Yeah, I get 3 up cuts at Harbor Freight for $9.
But they're upcuts.
That's right.
Yeah.
I burn it up, I throw it away.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you know what? I bought 2 of these Bosch down cut spirals. They're solid carbide, and one is dull. I bought them 15 months ago. So they're my go-to. Generally speaking, that's what I've got in here.
Yeah, and another thing, I think we mentioned this probably on one of the other shows. I like to use pretty much 3 different brands, and that's Freud, CMT, and Whiteside. And I either pick them up at wood shows or just go to Amazon, try to get the best price I can.
All right. We had Trevor Burke come in and says, if you have only 1/4 inch shank, can you get a rabbet cutter with a bearing and just cut the bearing off?
I've seen it done.
I suppose you could, but
I don't know that it's
Don't
advisable.
plunge with it.
Yeah, for the same amount of money, you can just get a bottom cutting bit or just get a straight bit and use that.
It's gonna be fun to watch if you plunge with it.
Yeah, but you'd only do it once. I guess that should be said. Same thing for anything CNC. You can do anything you want once.
pretty much, yeah.
And unless anybody in the chat's got anything else, that's all of the questions.
Okay, great. Well, I guess we'll call it a wrap then if they're out of questions. Still got 40, 30 something people watching. So once again, I appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Mike, glad you made it back in here, buddy. You missed all the good stuff.
Yeah, sorry. Something came up. Had to run.
That's all right. Yeah, I guess if we don't have any more questions or anything, we'll call this a wrap. And I appreciate my distinguished panel. I know I've had some questions. I just want to talk about this just for a second. I know we've had some. I've had some people. I think I saw it on Facebook or something, asking about when am I going to have Melinda back on here as the spotlight. So I just want everybody to know I've asked Melinda, and as soon as she can get her, everything going and has time to do it, we will spotlight her again. We'll go over some more of that photo VCarve stuff. I think that's what a lot of the questions were about. And she's got her audio working great now, so that was the issue we had the last time. I think that a lot of people had trouble hearing you. But so just for you viewers out there, it's whenever she's ready to go, we'll put her on here and talk about photo VCarve and whatever the heck else she wants to talk about. So.
Not trying to put her on the spot or anything, but I'd love to see that MDF finishing technique.
Yep, I second that.
Yeah, we're not trying to put you on the spot, Melinda. But
yeah, no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. But yeah, we'll have her on again real soon. Okay, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging around. Thanks again, panel. Always great to have you guys on here. And I guess we're going to call it a night. So we will see you all next week. Y'all take care. Oh, and happy Father's Day, too, to all the dads out there. Yeah, tomorrow's Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy birthday,
Likewise.
fathers. And y'all don't forget to leave a thumbs up down there below in the corner.
There you go. Like and subscribe on your way out, folks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We'll see y'all.
Peace.